Most leaders believe their greatest risk is making the wrong decision. The real danger is something far more subtle. Smart leaders often begin making weaker decisions when they are mentally exhausted, and most of them never realize it is happening. They still show up to meetings, they still respond to messages, they still guide their teams and keep projects moving forward. From the outside, nothing appears wrong. Colleagues continue to see confidence, direction, and activity. Inside the brain, however, something important has changed. The system responsible for careful judgment begins to slow down. Mental resources become depleted as the day progresses. Instead of thoughtful analysis, the brain gradually shifts toward survival mode. Decisions become faster, but they also become weaker. This pattern is known as decision fatigue, and it quietly affects even the most capable leaders. If you lead people, manage complex projects, or carry constant responsibility, this pattern may already be influencing your thinking more than you realize. Everyday leaders make dozens of decisions that most people never see. They respond to emails, guide team discussions, approve plans, evaluate risks, and solve problems that appear without warning. Each situation may seem manageable on its own, yet every decision requires energy. The brain processes information, compares possibilities, and determines a course of action. Even small decisions activate the cognitive systems responsible for judgment and evaluation. As the day progresses, those systems begin to tire. A leader may still appear confident, still guide conversations, and still respond to difficult situations. Yet the mental environment that supports careful thinking is no longer operating at full strength. At that point, something subtle begins to happen. Decisions begin to move faster because the brain is trying to conserve energy. Most leaders assume their thinking remains consistent throughout the day. In reality, the quality of thinking gradually changes as mental energy declines. Understanding this hidden pattern is one of the most important insights a leader can develop. Leadership requires constant evaluation. Some decisions feel large and strategic. These might include approving budgets, guiding organizational direction, or navigating complex negotiations. Many other decisions appear small. A leader might review a proposal, respond to a team member's concern, approve a schedule change, or decide how to address a minor operational issue. Each of these choices may appear routine on the surface, yet the brain processes every one of them. Every decision requires the mind to analyze information, compare possible outcomes, and determine a course of action. Even when a decision takes only seconds, the cognitive system responsible for judgment still engages. Research in behavioral psychology suggests that the brain functions much like a limited energy system. Each decision draws from the same mental reserve. When that reserve begins to decline, the brain naturally attempts to conserve energy. Instead of carefully analyzing every option, the mind begins simplifying the decision process. Shortcuts begin to replace deeper analysis. A leader may approve something without reviewing it as thoroughly as they normally would. A complex problem might receive a quick response rather than thoughtful examination. Difficult conversations may be postponed because the mental effort required to navigate them feels overwhelming. These adjustments may seem harmless in isolation, yet leadership is rarely defined by a single major decision. Leadership is shaped by the accumulation of hundreds of smaller decisions made throughout the day. When cognitive fatigue influences those decisions, the direction of teams and organizations can gradually shift. A project may move forward without careful planning. A problem may remain unresolved because addressing it requires deeper thinking. Over time, these small compromises can influence the effectiveness of leadership itself. Recognizing that mental energy has limits allows leaders to understand something many people overlook. Protecting cognitive capacity is not only a matter of personal well-being, it is a matter of leadership responsibility. Decision fatigue rarely appears through dramatic warning signs. Instead, it reveals itself through subtle changes in behavior and thinking. A leader may begin to notice that meetings feel more draining than they once did. Conversations that previously felt engaging may require greater effort. Listening carefully becomes more difficult because the mind is already managing several unresolved issues. Impatience may also begin to appear. A leader may feel pressure to reach conclusions quickly rather than allowing discussions to unfold thoughtfully. Complex conversations may begin to feel frustrating instead of intellectually stimulating. Communication patterns often change as well. Messages become shorter, responses may feel less reflective, some decisions may be delayed simply because the mind wishes to avoid additional cognitive effort. Strategic thinking may also decline. Long-term planning requires sustained concentration and mental energy. When the brain becomes fatigued, it naturally shifts toward short-term solutions. Immediate problems receive attention while larger strategic questions remain unresolved. Many leaders interpret these changes as normal stress. In reality, the brain is communicating something important. It is signaling that the systems responsible for judgment and analysis require recovery. If these signals are ignored, the cycle continues. Each morning begins with fresh mental clarity. As the day progresses and decisions accumulate, cognitive resources gradually decline. By evening, the leader may still be making decisions, yet the depth of thinking is no longer operating at its strongest level. Without awareness, this pattern can continue for months or even years. The leader remains active and engaged, yet the mental clarity that once guided their decisions slowly becomes more difficult to maintain. Recognizing this pattern allows leaders to take action before fatigue begins influencing their judgment. The leaders most vulnerable to decision fatigue are often the leaders who care deeply about their responsibilities. High performers typically carry significant responsibility. Their organizations depend on them to guide teams, resolve challenges, and maintain forward movement during complex situations. These leaders frequently oversee multiple areas of activity at the same time. They may coordinate projects, guide team development, communicate with stakeholders, and respond to operational issues throughout the same day. Each responsibility introduces new decisions. A morning may begin with reviewing reports. Shortly afterward, the leader may transition into strategic planning discussions. Later in the day, they may guide a meeting, resolve an unexpected problem, or support a colleague navigating a difficult situation. Every transition requires the brain to change modes of thinking. Strategic analysis requires reflection and long-range thinking. Operational problem solving demands speed and efficiency. Team leadership requires emotional awareness and thoughtful communication. Moving between these modes repeatedly places heavy demand on the brain. High performers also tend to hold themselves to high standards. They want to respond thoughtfully, lead effectively, and support others with care. While this commitment reflects strong leadership values, it also increases cognitive pressure. A leader who cares deeply about their work often tries to carry more responsibility than the mind can comfortably manage. Over time, this pattern creates continuous mental demand. Even the most capable leader cannot sustain peak decision quality without moments that allow the mind to recover. Recognizing this reality does not weaken leadership, it strengthens it. Strong leadership requires awareness as much as determination. The first step toward restoring clarity is recognition. Leaders must learn to notice when their thinking patterns begin to change. Recognition allows leaders to observe the condition of their mental environment. Instead of forcing themselves to push through exhaustion, they acknowledge that the brain has natural limits. This understanding changes how leaders approach their responsibilities. Rather than attempting to resolve every issue immediately, leaders create moments that allow the mind to reset. Short periods of reflection allow the brain to process information and restore decision capacity. These moments may appear small. A brief walk between meetings can help the mind recover. A quiet moment of reflection can help reorganize complex thoughts. When leaders protect their cognitive capacity, decision fatigue is not a personal weakness. It is a signal that the brain needs space to think again. When leaders recognize that signal, they protect the quality of their decisions and strengthen the impact of their leadership. If you lead teams, manage complex responsibilities, or carry constant pressure to perform, this concept matters more than many people realize. Understanding your mental environment is one of the most powerful leadership disciplines you can develop. If you want to understand how stress may be influencing your leadership thinking, you can check your stress level at restleader.com. Recognizing the condition of the mind that leads is the first step towards stronger leadership decisions.